Let's bring on our guest, Felix. Felix, how you doing?
Good. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Felix, how are you?
Good.
Welcome to Show Me the Money. So, as you may know, our audience consists of probably 99% of drivers and rideshare drivers, couriers, whatever they do, gig work, basically. We're all 1099 independent contractors, right?
Yep.
And I've written, I don't know how many articles now, for the last 8 years and talked about it to no end and I get laughs on this, by the way. They go like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, I'm every time I drive, I do a spreadsheet. I mean, am I profitable? Because I run it like a business. Well, that's what we recommend. What would you say to that? Would you laugh at me or would you agree with me about rideshare drivers running their gig as a business?
So my wife's families are all accountants, and they'll say you got to keep track of your expenses because otherwise you're leaving money on the table.
Yeah, and in order to run it like a business, right? Cost per mile and what it takes to run the car, and because we take the tool to work. It's a car, and all the expenses related to a car are deductible.
Yeah.
So what is VoiceExpense? First of all, when did it start? What do you do there? Obviously, you're the founder, but how did you come up with this idea, which I think is an amazing idea, by the way?
Yeah, so let me kind of introduce you to your audience. So I've been in the software industry for 25 years. But last year I got laid off because my company decided to spend money on AI. In fact, they spent $4 billion acquiring AI companies. And so I thought instead of jumping back into the software rat race, but if I build something, use this runway to build something for myself.
Yeah.
So I kind of look around and actually was working with my brother-in-law because he actually manages multiple properties, and I see him driving around and working with contractor, buying supplies, and then his other brother, right? My other brother-in-law actually is an accountant and does his taxes. So every time tax time comes, he's panicking because he doesn't have all the receipts, doesn't have all the mileage, and the accountant brother gets really upset because you're just wasting my time. And then if he doesn't, log this, it's money lost, right? He doesn't get to recover from his tax. So I decided, okay, what if I use this time to build this? But I also started seeing a pattern. It's not just him, being a handyman and maintenance person.
Yeah.
And that rideshare people, Uber, DoorDash, they 100 miles per day. I mean, those are all money that should be kept track of, and so that and that becomes deduction, right, for taxes. So it's very important for that. So VoiceExpense, I started with just using voice to automatically log your expenses. I use AI to build this, and part of it is being processed by AI. And then my second feature was to log miles too. So I know there's already a lot of applications out there that does this, but what I built into this is flexibility. So you can actually start tracking on your own, like by clicking the start button, or have the app automatically detect when you're driving.
Yeah.
So it does all.
So the old days of take out a notebook and write everything down in a notebook and then dump that in or collect the receipts all year long, put them in a trash bag, and send it to your accountant are over, right?
Well, that's what my brother-in-law was trying to do, but he was not very successful and I don't blame him. He's not lazy. It's just that it takes a lot of time. You got other things on your mind. So why don't you just use an app to run that?
Yeah. And so give us some color on how the app works. Like, how does it work? Like, so I'm driving. I'm an Uber driver.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put in a full shift. I'm going to drive 8 hours. By the way, Uber drivers drive a lot more than 100 miles a day.
Okay.
A lot more.
Yeah.
Some of them drive 300, 400 miles a day.
Holy smokes.
If they're putting a 12-hour shift, for sure. And so how does this thing work? Like, what do you do?
So the easiest thing to do is just click on auto detect, right? So when you start driving, the map would pop up, and you can actually put it in background as well. I know there are some apps out there that doesn't do that very well, but you put it back in the background when you're at your location, pop it back up, and it knows when it stops. Now, there are times when you get false negatives or false positive, whatever, because you're stopping at a stoplight. So the app actually detects that, like, okay, is this really a stoplight? And it allows more time for you to kind of detect if it's truly a stop. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is you can use voice to say, okay, well, this is my destination, and then it will map it out. And just in case you lose GPS signal, it will use that as the default backup. So you never lose your trip.
Okay.
And then finally, you can also manually enter the trip, right? So if you forgot to turn on detection or start the trip, you have the flexibility to enter manually.
Okay, so here's a hypothetical. So I'm going to go get a car wash, clean my car before I start driving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's obviously a deductible expense from taxes.
Yes.
So what do? I tell VoiceExpense, hey, went to car wash, $25, and then it records it.
That's it. You press the button.
Where have you been all these years, man?
Well, there's also the receipt scanning, because a lot of apps out there also do receipt scanning.
Okay.
A lot of times when I go to the gas station, I don't even take the receipt. I just take the readout of the gas readout. It knows, because it's AI process, it knows you're at the gas station, and would detect that that's a gas price, and it'll categorize it as such. And when you export it, there's categories already in the spreadsheet or CSV file.
So I get this question a lot. People go like, well, my car is, so first of all, like, I'm a huge proponent of every single driver figuring out their cost per mile, because if you're driving a newer car, depreciation is going to be higher. If you're driving a beater, which you should in this day and age, to do Uber and Lyft, your depreciation is gone, but then you may have more expenses on fixing the car because it's going to fall apart probably, or whatever it is. So my thing is, so you can basically record all year long your expenses into this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now a lot of people will say, well, I'm just going to take the IRS deduction, which you said 72.5 cents this year, right? But then it doesn't end there, right? We still have to file some sort of Schedule C, or is it? I'm not a tax man. I'm not giving tax advice, folks, but you still have to record it. And in your case, maybe taking the 72.5 may not be, I suggest to them run both. Whichever one is going to lower your taxes the most, you should do that one, right?
Yeah.
So what is your suggestion for that when people say, I'm just going to take the standard deduction?
Yeah. So I would, just log everything, right? I can't give you tax advice, but your accountant should look at that. But if you have everything, that's enough information for your accountant to kind of figure that out. Definitely outside of mileage, right? If maintenance, washing your car, I know some Uber drivers have snacks for their drivers. I mean, that's all deductible, right? So don't leave that money on the table. So I think I mentioned to you, if you can gross $1 per mile if you're driving, that's great. But net, if you account for maintenance and all that, maybe that's 60 cents, right? So that's 72.5 cents. It's a lot, based on that.
Well, most drivers I know, they don't pay any taxes at the end of the year, because 72.5 gets them to zero tax liability. But okay, I used VoiceExpense. I recorded everything. Folks, we're talking, you just say something and it records, and you have the record there. And I'm going like, so I'm betting that a lot of drivers are missing a lot of these small expenses that add up to major amounts at the end of the year. I'm betting that that's the case. And so at the end of the year comes, okay, what do I do now? Now what am I doing?
So here's another thing that I have that other expense apps may not have, is share with your accountant. So basically, you can give a link to your accountant, and he has read access only to your expenses and your mileage. And that's it. I mean, he can just download it and he can figure that out himself. You don't even need to export it. Okay. So, and my app, you can access it through Google store as well as the Apple store, but you can also access with the same price on the web. So you can export your PDF and your CSV files through the web as well. So, and what I would like to do is maybe plug this to the community is like, if there are any other features you would like, because I use AI on my own, that I can actually build it relatively quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the key. So you guys know my email, but VoiceExpense contact information is in the show notes. If you guys have any ideas, you're using the app and you're missing something, feel free to send me an email, sergio@rideshareguy.com, which I'll then forward to Felix, or directly get in touch with the company and give them your ideas. It's a newer app, and I mean, there's always additions, happening. So you started this company, the app is out there in both iOS and Android store, and the question is, if you were to say to every driver that's watching this now and going to watch it later, why is this probably the most important thing that they should be using? By the way, is the app, are there versions of the app?
Yeah, currently it's just Apple, Android, as well as the web, right? Okay. But I think the most important part is I want to plug into this community, and I want to hear feedback to see what other things I can add to it. Other features that are on the app is there's a data trend analysis. So basically, you can look at what your trend in terms of expenses in your last year, and it will basically say, well, maybe you spent a lot of money on car and maintenance. Another thing is there's an AI assistant. So basically you can ask questions to it and say, what was my largest expense last month? And then that perhaps can help you organize and coordinate your expenses.
Yeah, well, I think, as you said, unfortunately you were laid off because of AI. I mean, AI is here, like it or not. And how could drivers, you think, utilize AI for their benefit?
Yeah, I think you already mentioned in one of your podcasts that Uber decided to use AI, roll out AI to 5,000 of their engineers, and they blew their AI budget within 4 months for their annual budget. It's crazy. And then what I heard was the COO looked at it and said, did we really make a difference? So a lot of companies are just pouring money into AI and decided, well, let's give it a try. And I don't know if they are really taking care of their drivers and their resources, right? And maybe that's the world we're coming in. Now, to me, I mean, that's how it impacted my job. But I thought, well, maybe I use this time and use this technology and benefit myself. Yeah. So I just actually listened to a podcast of this, they call her the godmother of AI, Felix Lee. Mm-hmm. And she mentioned that maybe this is a time of loss, right? We are losing jobs because of AI. But it could be that this could be an opportunity if you are into entrepreneurship and as well as, agency. Maybe this is a time to embrace new technology and try something else. So what I would say is to the drivers in your audience is, what can you be creative and do? I mean, we talk about unionizing and things like that. Can you actually create maybe newsletter with using AI or blogs using AI to organize people? Or are there any other ways of maybe just pulling yourself off the grid of Uber and Lyft and actually create a business of driving, local customers? I mean, there's just so many ways of trying this, and this is where I would love to hear feedback from your audience.
Yeah, we'll definitely, forward them to you as we get them. Well, we have a couple of questions, Chris, that you highlighted or you marked. Can we put those up for Felix to answer before he leaves?
Yep.
So one question, Josh Gibson says, don't you still need to keep physical receipts?
So as long as you have a picture of your receipt, and actually your accountants, you typically do not need to see it as long as you actually log it, but it's good to have a record of it, right? But with my photo scanning, you can actually put it in your database. So you don't need to have it around anymore. I mean, you can always print it out. So on the web version of my app, you can actually print out or export all the receipts that you had scanned.
Okay. Okay. Is there a monthly cost for the app?
Oh, yes. So the monthly cost is $4.99, but I think if you're better off with the annual subscription. So with RSG, there's the RSG 26 promo code. With that, it's $42 per year. So you're really less than a coffee.
So instead of 60, it's 42. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, guys, listen, I'm telling you, I don't put things on that I don't like here, but $42, you can go to McDonald's or go to Five Guys, eat a meal, and that's $42. And this is your taxes, by the way. So I'm like, spend the money where it's, and by the way, that 42 is probably also tax deductible, isn't it?
Yes.
Of course.
And I know there's a question about the app connect to QuickBook. You can export the CSV as a QuickBook format CSV, and it should import to QuickBooks.
Okay. Yeah, that was that last question. Is there any other questions, Chris? That's it, right?
Yeah.
There's one more.
No. That was.
Oh, that was it.
all
Okay.
I've seen, yep.
So Felix,
I was just going through it.
I'm happy with the product, obviously, but you know, I'll give you a couple of minutes to close us up, and the link is in the show notes, right, Chris?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So close us up, Felix. You got a couple more minutes.
Yeah, I'm so happy to actually spread this app with this audience here. So please let me know if there's anything I can add, and if you have any ideas what we can build. I would love to partner with you all. Send me a note at hello@voiceexpense.com.
Okay. Well, here's Felix Wong, the founder. Are you the CEO as well?
Yeah, founder, CEO.
CEO,
I'm really a one-person company.
I'm definitely going to use it. I mean, listen, you know, it's like I use a lot of different apps. I have like 8 or 9 apps on my phone for gig work. And this is just, for me, makes me much more comfortable before I go to my accountant and start getting yelled at.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't have enough deductions. I'm like, bro, I probably forgot. I don't know. And just put it in there anyway. I'm like, nope, we're not going to do that. So with this, all that headache is gone. Folks, please go check it out. And as he said, if you have any input or suggestions, you can email me and then I'll forward it to Felix. Or like Felix said, hello@voiceexpense.com. So thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Felix. Have a great day. All right, thanks for watching. That short little clip was from our live stream, Show Me the Money Club with Sergio and myself, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you subscribe, turn on all notifications so you'll be notified when we go live, as well as all of our awesome content. Make sure to check out this video right here, which will take you to the entire live stream, or check out this video right there. All right, drive smart, everyone.